Oh, okay.
Our one of our questions was like what or something that's just kind of unanswered is like how did Billy become unstuck before the like alien people came?
Well, that's the question. Okay, in chapter 4, I don't know if you have your. Let me just look at this and hold on to those other questions. Yeah, it's kind of weird because the Tralfamadorian sense of time is that time has already always happened. And so Billy, because he's unstuck in time, we think it has something to do with his capture. That's the first time he became unstuck in time.
Yeah.
But as to why, where is it? Hang on here.
Like why him?
Why him and why not all of us? Why shouldn't all of us be unstuck in time? That kind of, but not really, gets answered later in the book. But there's obviously once it could be that once he's captured by or kidnapped, and we'll read more about this kidnapping. It's actually pretty cool. And he gets to hang out with Montana Wildhack, actress, in this kind of zoo-like thing on Tralfamadore. But that's in chapter 5. So maybe part of it, Kendall, is that having been abducted by aliens, by the Tralfamadorians, and learned about their perspective on time, that may be what unstuck him. But the thing is, the first time he became unstuck in time is actually before his daughter's wedding, which is the night on which he became, he was abducted by the Tralfamadorians. And it's a good question. Why Billy? Why then? Again, this whole time thing. And that's what I'm interested in for sci-fi, because we're interested in time travel. Eventually, we'll get together and watch a couple more movies, including one on Slaughterhouse-Five. Don't watch it yet. We'll watch a couple movies over Zoom together, which is not the best way to watch a movie, but it's kind of fun because it's not so lonely. But one thing, Vonnegut is writing this as an anti-war novel. This is how do you respond to a tragedy like Dresden? And I guess what you do is you say it was inevitable, so it goes. Remember, every time death occurs in the novel, whether it's a bottle of champagne going flat or somebody getting shot or whatever, it's so it goes. Or bacteria being killed and the de-lysing and stuff. So, it could be, Kendall, that Vonnegut's point is that how do you deal with tragedy? You say tragedy is inevitable, which I think, frankly, we'll have to wait till the end of the book. I think that's kind of a bogus response to tragedy. But the question remains, so is it being captured? He's leaning against that tree, is standing in the ditch there. When he becomes the first time he becomes unstuck in time. Technically, that's long before his abduction by the Tralfamadorians, although all these moments exist all at once. And he moves around among them. So it's a good question to which I basically have no answer. I don't think we really figure out. We do figure out a little more as the book progresses. Good question. Other questions? Another group?
Our question was, how did he know the spaceship was arriving?
Okay, well, let's look at that. This is the start of page 4.
I just didn't catch that.
This is the start of chapter 4. No, that's a good question. Billy Pilgrim could not sleep on his daughter's wedding night. He was 44, so this is long after the war. As Kendall points out, it's long after the first time he becomes unstuck in time. The wedding taking place, blah, 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 blah. Billy and his wife Valencia nestled like spoons, blah, blah, blah. She's snoring like a bandsaw. The poor woman didn't have ovaries or a uterus anymore. What does that
mean? Infertile.
Well, she'd had a hysterectomy, so yeah, Luke, you're right. She's infertile. But interestingly, they've been removed by surgeons. One of Billy's partners in the New Holiday Inn. There was a full moon. Why that juxtaposition? What do we associate Mariam with the moon?
Werewolves.
Okay, Christian, you're right. Werewolves. What else? What's traditionally, I wish I had a.
Space, I guess.
What's that?
Space.
Not space. I'll just go ahead and tell you the answer. Why make, just choose mine? It's actually women. women are traditionally associated with the moon?
Oh yeah, the goddess of the moon is, well, god of the moon in like almost every mythology is female.
Why?
I don't know.
Why? Christian, you must know. Pablo, why are women associated with the moon? Luke just said that because of the hysterectomy, Billy's wife Valencia is no longer fertile. What do fertility and the moon have to do with each other, Pablo?
They cycle.
Every
That-
9 months, I don't know.
Okay, it's actually every 28 days. Women's menstrual cycles are associated with the moon. This is why, I mean, so the moon is often in literature associated with a female, associated with fertility, or, you know, and this is why when we say somebody's a lunatic, what do we mean? If somebody's a lunatic, Kyla, what are they?
Crazy.
They're crazy, Christian. They're crazy. And of course, some people, whoever's mic that is, you can shut that off, thanks. Some people claim that, you know, women become crazy, the PMS kind of thing. So yeah, so it's interesting that we get an image of a lack of fertility, which, you know, what Luke's talking about because of her hysterectomy, and then boom, we get a full moon. So he gets out of bed, he wanders out, gets a bottle of champagne, and he says, excuse me, now Billy shuffled down his upstairs hallway, knowing he was about to be kidnapped by a flying saucer. How does he know? Kendall, how does he know?
Because it like already happened, kind of.
Because we assume that this means he's experienced this moment again and again and again. At one point, there had to be a first time. But because that moment always exists, now he's, yeah, it's kind of weird. You know, Billy was guided by dread and by lack of dread. Dread because he's afraid, because he knows what's happening, but also lack of dread because, okay, been here, done that, been there, you know, been through this before. He went to his daughter's room, blah, 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 blah. She had a Princess telephone extension all her own on her windowsill. Its tiny nightlight stared at Billy, and then it rang. Billy answered. There was a drunk on the other end. Billy could almost smell his breath. Who's that sound like? Sean? Who's that sound like?
I don't know.
Think of the first chapter when Vonnegut's talking about himself. It's the metafictional stuff where he's talking about writing about the novel. Remember that one of the things he does is he gets drunk and he calls people late at night. So this is kind of a fun idea that in the middle of the novel, the author is actually calling up the character. I think it's just Vonnegut trying to be playful. I think Vonnegut, even though he's dealing with tragedy, even though he's dealing with an anti-war novel, even though he's dealing with this terrible event in Dresden, I also think he's trying to have fun and be sort of playful. But when he gets, if you skip ahead, where is it? You go to the end of that section. I've gone ahead a couple of pages. You get a description of the saucer. It was 100 feet in diameter with portholes around the rims. It's a classic flying saucer. There's a cylinder of pulsing purple light. And then down, there's the seeming kiss of an airtight hatch in the bottom of the saucer was open. Down snaked a ladder that was outlined in pretty lights like a Ferris wheel. Billy's will was paralyzed by a zap gun aimed at him from one of the portholes. It became imperative, necessary, he couldn't resist, that he take hold of the bottom rung of the sinuous ladder, which he did. The rung was electrified so that Billy's hands locked onto it hard. He was hauled into the airlock and machinery closed the bottom door. This begs the question of why they would have to zap him so that his, his Billy's will was paralyzed by a zap gun. Keep that in mind because it's kind of inconsistent with what we're going to write about in the discussion blog. But does that kind of answer your question, sort of, Luke? Yeah. Good. Other questions? Excuse me. Other groups. Shan, what do you guys have? Questions?
So our group question was, is there really any like incentive to even live a good life if he lives like all time at once?
I'm not going to answer that because I'm going to have you save that for your response because that's exactly what we're kind of talking about. No, it's a good question. That would have been better than the discussion prompt that I have. Yeah, if everything's determined, not only is it necessary to live a good life, but can you choose to live a good life? Can you choose to live a bad life? I don't know. That's a good question, Christian. Keep that in mind as you post your paragraph later during this period. Good. Other questions? Pablo, Nicole, would you guys have any questions for your group?
Yeah, we were in Kendall's group.
Oh, okay.
It was the first question, yeah.
Okay. And that was your only question? That's a good question. Okay. Okay. Mariam, your group, anything? No? Or you got to turn your mic on when you talk. Sorry. Oops.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was with Luke's group, and our question was basically just the same.
Okay. Okay. Before I show you this discussion prompt, any other questions that individually have, just like meaning, sense, and clarity, stuff you don't understand?
I kind of have one for chapter 4.
What's that?
Why was Billy's coat is different from anyone else?
Well, because it's random. What they've got is they're coming, they're on the train, the hobo dies, so it goes. The hobo says, oh, this ain't so bad. I've seen worse. And of course, he's the first one to die. And of course, the other thing is that, what's his name? Hang on here. We'll get to the coat in just a second. It's a good question. Where is the hobo dies? Where is Roland Weary? Okay, so remember Roland Weary doesn't get boots. Billy gets these weird snow boots. Roland Weary gets those ill-fitting clogs, and Billy keeps, because he walks so weirdly, keeps stumbling into them. Roland Weary's feet start bleeding because Billy's stepping on them and stuff. And Roland Weary dies. And it's and everybody, and he says, at the end, Roland Weary died of gangrene that had started in his mangled feet, so it goes. He got this, where is this? He got somebody to, not Edgar Derby. Where's the guy's name? Hang on a second. I've got it around here somewhere. Paul Lazaro. His name was Paul Lazaro. And he was the one who held, Lazaro had been on Roland Weary's box card and given his word of honor to Weary. They would find some way to make Billy Pilgrim pay for Weary's death. So we've got this character, Paul Lazaro, who's going to come back, and he's bent on vengeance for Roland Weary. He wants to, make Billy pay. But as they unload an old extermination camp, which has been converted into a prisoner of war camp, there are a pile of frozen overcoats from other dead people. They've stripped dead people of their clothes, their boots and stuff. And so what happens is they're sticking their bayonets. They have to use their bayonets to break the coats free because they're frozen stiff. And Billy just happens to have this ridiculous looking coat. Doesn't really fit him. It's too short. The arms are going to, tear off. So he's basically got this fur-collared vest, and he looks ridiculous. Again, I guess it's another opportunity for Vonnegut to sort of put Billy, in a category where other people are laughing at him, making fun of him. I don't know. Good question, though. Other specific questions, Sean? You didn't get to join a group. Did you have any real pressing questions? You guys still liking the book? Has it gotten a little better or not?
I mean, I feel like this book just isn't for everyone. Like, it's not necessarily my favorite book, but it's not bad.
Okay. Kind of a
That's
loop.
like the same with all like sci-fi books, though.
What's that, Nicole?
That's the same for like all the stuff that we've read. It's not for everybody.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Go ahead, Kendall.
I mean, it's just, it's not my favorite book. That's
Okay.
all.
Well, also, we're reading it in a sci-fi class, but again, is it really a science fiction? It's not hardcore science fiction like, the robot stories you read by, Asimov and others. This seems, I mean, again, I think the sci-fi, the time travel element, the aliens, the Tralfamadorians, again, I think they serve not to explore science fiction concepts like time travel as much as they serve Vonnegut's purpose of trying to write what's essentially an anti-war novel to address his experience in Dresden. But anyway, let me show you what I got going here. Oh, it's Steve Mnuchin. Let's go to, you guys all see that?
Yes.
Good. So here's what I want. And unless you have other comments, this is a really short chapter. Chapter 5 is a long chapter. I was going to assign 2 chapters, but I figure we'll just read 1 chapter because Kendall's not really into it. Maybe we should get into it more. But we'll read 1 chapter, chapter 5. We're not going to meet again until Monday. Unless, do you guys want to meet on Friday or not?
I
Nah.
wouldn't object to it.
I'm okay with everything.
Monday.
I need to fill my time somehow.
Well, okay. Anybody who wants to meet and chat on Friday, I'll be around during 5th period, but we won't have a regular class again until Monday. And what I'd like you to do is read chapter 5 for Monday. I posted this assignment here. And then for Friday, I really enjoyed reading your paragraphs and your first impressions. They're pretty short. If you're bored, you got nothing to do, let's go for a beefier paragraph. But what I want to talk about, and we'll read this in just a second, is toward the very end of chapter 4. The Tralfamadorians tell Billy that only on earth is there any talk of free will. And this gets back to Christian's point. So I want you guys to give me a paragraph that says, what is free will? Do you believe in it? And more to the point, why don't the Tralfamadorians believe in it? Here, let me click on this so we can see it more, the whole thing. Where is it? Yeah, so what is it? Do you believe in it? And more to the point, why don't the Tralfamadorians believe in free will? Try to make your paragraphs a little more beefy this time around. I look forward to reading them. And once again, be sure to comment on at least 2 of your peers' posts. And that's what we can use the rest of this block period after we look at the very end of this chapter. And this is, where body lies, Lazaro. So Billy says, this is just the last 2 sections and the last couple of pages of chapter 4. Where am I, said Billy. Trapped in another blob of amber, Mr. Pilgrim. Remember, they don't talk. How do they speak? Nicole, how do they communicate? How do the Tralfamadorians communicate? They don't have voice boxes.
Telepathically, right?
Yeah, telepathically. So Billy's receiving these thoughts in his mind. Where we have to be just now. I'm sorry, we are where we have to be just now. 300 million miles from Earth, bound for a time warp, which will get us to Tralfamador in hours rather than centuries. How did I get here? It would take another Earthling to explain it to you. Earthlings are great explainers, explaining why this event is structured as it is, telling how other events may be achieved or avoided. I am a Tralfamadorian, seeing all time as you might see a stretch of the Rocky Mountains. We heard that before. All time is all time. It does not change. It does not lend itself to warnings or explanations. It simply is. Take it moment by moment. You will find that we are all, as I've said before, bugs in amber. Do you know what amber is?
Yeah, it's fossilized tree sap.
Right, exactly. You've seen Jurassic Park?
Yeah, the mosquitoes.
Yeah, and the whole thing is they can get dinosaur DNA out of some, insects that are trapped in amber.
The only use for mosquitoes.
And then it says, Billy says, you sound to me as though you don't believe in free will, said Billy Pilgrim. If I hadn't spent, the Tralfamadorian replies, if I hadn't spent so much time studying Earthlings, I wouldn't have any idea what was meant by free will. I visited 31 inhabited planets in the universe, and I've studied reports on 100 more. Only on Earth is there any talk of free will. So I want you guys to think about that. Think about what you think free will is, whether you believe in free will, and then more to the point, try to explain, given their concept of time and whatnot, what does that imply about the Tralfamadorians? Why would they not believe in free will? Even though, and this is, I think, a mistake on Vonnegut's part, and this is probably what's getting to Kendall, is that, Vonnegut is kind of a sloppy writer at times. If there's no such thing as free will, why do they have to zap Billy with the ray gun and, stop his free will? I don't know. Anyway, so that's the homework for Monday. Not a whole lot. You guys are feeling okay, not overwhelmed as far as workload goes?
There's a lot of stuff for math, but otherwise, no.
How about Pablo, Nicole? How you guys doing? Not too bad.
Well, I don't know, I guess, like I said, I just have other people to help in my household as well, so it's kind of a lot, but.
Yeah. But you guys got all settled in? You're all settled in now?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Good. No, I was talking to Nicole. Okay, Christian, Pablo, thanks for joining us. Do me a favor. I'm going to shut this down. Do me a favor, and let's go ahead and try and reach out to Morgan and Dylan and who else?
Morgan's birthday was last night.
Oh,
really? Yeah, that's probably why he isn't here.
I hope you're not over there at his house for his birthday party.
Well, I
Guys,
sent
In my room.
I
Ow.
texted and he said he's just kind of like overwhelmed with everything. That's why he's not here right now.
Okay.